earlier, just we'll be discussing how to access the request parameters that we send from the browser to the server in a servlet. Okay, see, from any user interface. Let me try to. Just let me start the server. Okay, the server is being started. Okay, after starting the server, let me try to access the base login page. Just I have access the login page. When I click on submit, okay, some request parameters will be sent, okay, from the HTML page to the servlet. Okay, just now my servlet something with URL abc.login is accessed. Some web resource with the URL abc.login is accessed. The URL which is configured, or the servlet which is mapped for the URL pattern something.login is login servlet. So that means login servlet is being invoked, or the login servlet is being triggered. But from login.html, whatever the values that we send from login.html, okay, those values will go as request parameters from the browser to the server. Okay, and now I have entered RRR and 123. So those values RRR and 123 will go as request parameters to the server. Okay, and we have seen how the request parameters will be transferred to the server when the method is get and when method is post. Okay, but how we can access those request parameters in a servlet? Okay, now let me see. Now what I do is, I will write a very simple logic, but it's not a correct logic, but I will write a simple logic that, okay, when the username is Rajesh and password is 123, then login is success. Otherwise login is not success. Basically that information, the username and password will be compared against to the database. The username and password that we enter will be compared against to the database. But now I am not writing that much extensive logic. Just I write the logic in such a way that if the username is Rajesh and password is Rajesh123, sorry, username is Rajesh and password is 123, then it is success. Otherwise it is fail. Okay. So now how I can access those request parameters? What is the username that I have given? What is the password that I have given? How we can access those parameters? Means just let me remove this content. Now I need to access the request parameters in the servlet. The request parameters can be accessed through the request object. And one more thing, any value that goes from the browser to server will be in a string format. Okay? Any value that goes from the browser to server will be there in a string format. Whatever the value it might be. Okay? It will be there in a string format. If you enter 10 in a text field, that 10 also will go as a string format. If you enter some 10,000 rupees 55 paise, even that will go as a string format. Okay, whatever the value that we send, either it is a special character or a digit or an alphabet, or uppercase alphabet or a lowercase alphabet, whatever the content that we send from the browser to server, it will go as a string. Okay, so let's consider like I have sent 10 as a string. Let's consider like in my field, my text field, I'll enter number of months as 25. Let's consider like it is now free. They will ask number of months you have worked. Okay, I have worked for 25 months. So if I enter 25 in the field, okay, this 25 will go as a string. This 25 will go as a string. It will not go as an integer directly, just because the only type that we can send information from a browser to server is a string. Okay, so now 25 will go as a string. Now the number of months that we work, is it a integer or a string actually? Integer. So on the Java side it will be integer. Now how we can convert this string into integer? Integer.parcel, which is a wrapper class. So this is how where wrapper classes are really used. Okay. So whatever the content that we send from the browser to server, from fields, whatever the field data that we enter in a browser, that will go to the server only in a string format. So how we can access those values in the server side means, in the request object there is a method named getParameter. The getParameter method will take a string. The getParameter method will take a string, okay, which is the name of the request parameter. There are two request parameters here. One is username, another is password. Okay, there are two request parameters. One is username and other is password. So how we can access the request parameter means, just take the request parameter name and give it to the getParameter method. Okay, request.getParameter of username. It will return a string. The return type of getParameter method is a string. It will return the string. It will return a string. Request.getParameter will return a string. That string is the value of the request parameter. The string is nothing but the value of the request parameter. In the same way, password. Okay, just let me try to print the values. The password entered by you is password. So just in the console, or sorry, in the browser, in the response browser, what I am doing is I am putting some values. Yeah, this is the username entered by you, and this is the value, or this is the password entered by you. Okay, just know that yes, these request parameters are accessed in the servlet. So let me try to compile the application. Application is compiled. Let me stop the server. Start the server. Server is started. Then let me try to refresh the browser. So now this content is printed from login servlet. Where it is. Sorry. Let me try to stop the server. Let me see. Method is post. Just fine, right? Refresh the page. SRC. Let me try with another browser. First, let me delete the classes. We try to compile the application again. It's a it's a foolish thing, yeah. Just I did not compile the application. I was changing the directory. That's it. Press compile. Now let me stop the server. Start the server. Let me access the login page. So the username entered by you is Rajesh, and the password entered by you is 123. So you could be able to access the request parameters that we have sent from the browser inside the servlet. Okay, let's consider that we don't send any values. Let me go for this page once again. We don't send any values. What is the value? It is blank. But for some of the browsers, it will be null. For some of the browsers and for some of the servers, it will be null. Request.get parameter will return null for some of the servers and for some of the browsers. For some of the browsers and for some of the servers, it will be blank. But it will not be other than null and blank. Okay? Request.get parameter will return either null or blank. If we don't populate any value in the field, then the request parameter value is either null or blank. Okay, this is how we can access the request parameters. Okay, inside a servlet. Now, can we access the request parameters inside the init method? Can we access the request parameters inside init method? Can we access request parameters inside init method? Yes or no? Can we access request parameters inside init method? Yes or no? No? What, Mr. Shekhar, Nanda Project? What you are doing? Are you listening to the classes? What I am asking? And what is your answer? Can we access request parameters inside init method? Yes or no? How we can access request parameters? How we can access request parameters? In Servlet. That's what I am asking. In Servlet, how we can access request parameters? Request.get parameter. Not directly get parameter. Request.get parameter. Now, just answer, can we access request parameters in a Servlet? Sorry. Can we access request parameters inside the init method of the servlet? No. Why? Why? If you are telling yes, there should be some reason. How? How we can access? If there is no, if your answer is no, there should be some reason why you should not. If it is yes, you should tell how we can access them. If it is no, you should tell why we can't access them. That is what you have listened to the class yesterday. Did you listen to the class yesterday? Yes? Are you comfortable with servlet lifecycle? Yes? Then, when the init method is executed? When init method of a servlet is executed in the servlet lifecycle? What Narpati? Why we did or Shekhar is telling that? request parameters will not be available in the init method. Why? Why request parameters will not be available in the init method? Speak out. Why request parameters will not be available in the init method? That's what I used to tell you. You will speak many things outside. When it comes to the class or when it comes to the case where you need to really speak, you will be dumb. It should not be the case. You should leave unnecessary things and should be active where you need to speak, where you have to speak. This is the place where you have to actually speak. See, in the init method, we cannot access the request parameters. It's not possible. Just because in a servlet lifecycle, first the init method is executed and then only the request object is created. Okay? Request object will be created only after executing the init method. That means at the time of executing the init method, a request object will not be available. At the time of executing init method, request object will not be available just because request object and response objects will be created only after executing or only after the completion of init method. So in the init method, request and response objects will not be available. For that reason, request parameters cannot be accessed, or we cannot access request parameters in the init method. And can we access request parameters in the destroy method? Can we access request parameters in the destroy method? Not possible? Or it is possible? The parameter is? Which parameter is local? Is request a parameter or request a object? So, can't be accessed like this? I'm not asking about thread. Is it impossible to access request parameters in the destroy method? It's not impossible, okay, but it's not desirable. It is possible. It is possible to access the request parameters in the destroy method by this way, by creating a global request object and initializing that with the local. But it's not desirable, it's not the correct way. Okay? Just because it is a multi-threading process. Since request handling is a multi-threading process and the attribute will be only one, the same attribute will be shared by multiple requests. And the same attribute will be modified by multiple requests. So we cannot get the accurate data. The accurate data about request parameters will be fetched only in the do get or do post method or service method, whatever it might be. The business methods of the servlets. Other than business methods of the servlets, like do get or do post or service, wherever we access request parameters, we may not get the accurate data. Just because this do post will be accessed by multiple servlets at a time. So, which servlet request will be there in the destroy method means? we may not be sure. So we cannot get any accurate data if we access request parameters in the destroy method. Okay, so people will tell that it's not possible to access request parameters in the destroy method in generic way. In generic way, init and destroy methods will not be used to access request parameters. Only the business methods of the servlets, like do get or do post or service. Only in those methods we can access request parameters.
You said that request object will not be available beyond service.
This request object will not be available. But what we are doing, this request object we are assigning to another global attribute. Okay, so this object will be destroyed. This request object will be destroyed when service method execution is completed. But this object we are assigning before destroying, we are assigning to another attribute. So that will be available till the servlet website. But that is not the way we need to do. And yes, let's consider that we have two fields, username, the second field also username. Now, will HTML allow this? Two fields with the same name? It's not allowed. Did I tell that? Did I tell that two fields with the same name is not allowed?
We can write, but the data we cannot get access.
Did I tell that HTML or servlet will restrict two fields with the same name? Or did I tell that there can be two HTML components with the same name, but ID should be different? What did I tell in the earlier HTML classes? Two form fields can have the same name, will be legal, will be accepted both by HTML as well as servlets. Okay? Two form fields can have the same name, will be accepted. Two HTML components or two form fields can have the same name. Now, let me try to refresh this HTML page. So, let me okay, I'm giving the values. One username is Rajesh, second username is Ravi, and the password is 123. So, if I click on submit, let's see whether the first value will go to the server or second value will go to the server or both. So, what is the value that has gone to the server? First value. Okay, let me see the request. Okay, let me see the request. Let me make it get. Let me submit the form as method get, and let me override do get method. Let me override do get method. Let me start the server. Compile application. Restart the server. And let me access the login.html. So, How many request parameters are there here? Let me copy this, might not be visible. So, how many request parameters are there here? 3 or 2? 3 or 2. How many request parameters are there here? Username is one request parameter, password is another request parameter. But for the same request parameter username, there are 2 values. It's not that we are sending 3 request parameters here. There are only 2 request parameters, username, password. But for the same request parameter username, there are 2 values. One is Ravi, another is Rajesh. Understood? Understood how it will be? There are two request parameters here. Username, password. But for one request parameter username, there are 2 values. Okay? Ravi and Rajesh. So, can we have multiple values for the same request parameter? Yes or no? Yes. There can be multiple values for the same request parameter. It's possible. It's possible to have multiple request parameters for the same multiple request parameters for the same it's possible to have multiple values for the same request parameter. It's possible to have multiple values for the same request parameter. But how the request parameters will go means, just they will go as different key values. The same request parameter is there with multiple values, they will go as different key values. Key equal to value 1. Key 1 equal to value 1, key 1 equal to value 2, key 1 equal to value 3. Like that they will go. But the same request parameter can have multiple values. It's possible. Now, if the same request parameter can have multiple values, the same request parameter can have multiple values. Okay? If I print that in the browser, what is the value that is entering? Rajesh and 1, 2, 3. Why it is giving only one value? Why it can't give multiple values? Just because the return type of request.get parameter is, what is the return type of request.get parameter? It is string. So that string can give only one value. So for this type of cases where there are multiple values for the same parameter, okay? In the case where there are multiple values for the same parameters, we go for another method. Request.get parameter values. In a case where there are multiple values for the same parameter, or in a case where there are multiple values for the same request parameter, in a case where there are multiple values for the same request parameter, what are we doing, man? Why are you going to the class? Then why you don't able to answer the questions? In a case where there are multiple values for the same request parameter, we use the method request.get parameter values. Request.get parameter return type is a string. Get parameter values return type is a string array. Request.get parameter values method return type is a string array. That string array might be empty or might have one value or might have 10 values or 100 or any number of values. The same request parameter can have any number of values. There is no limit for that. So now username, how we can access the values of array? Means we can use a enhanced for loop. Sorry, let me give out.println. So now username is not a single value, username is a array. Just because there can be multiple values for the same username. So how we can access all those values means using another method of the request object named get parameter values, which will also take a string, the name of the request parameter. Okay, and will return a string array, multiple values. The string array will be empty if there is no value. It will be 1 if there is a single value. It will be 2 if there are 2 values, like that. There is no limit for the number of values that we can send to the same request parameter. So let me start the server. Let me go to the application, compile the application. Start the server. Go to the login page again. Let me refresh the browser. So the usernames that we have entered are Rajesh and Ravi. Okay, so this is how we can access multiple values for the same request parameters. Okay, understood? Now let's consider like I have a form and I am submitting the form, but I don't know what are the request parameters and what are those values. Now I know the request parameter names, but I don't know the values, so I am accessing the request parameter values based on their names. But there might be a case where we may not know the request parameter names itself. Okay? In a case where we don't know even the request parameter names, let's consider like there is a case where we don't know the request parameter names. Now, can we access those request parameter values using get parameter or get parameter values? If we don't know the request parameter name, can we access the request parameter values that we enter using either get parameter or get parameter values? No, just because get parameter or get parameter values, okay, will take a request parameter name as input and they will give the request parameter values. So if we don't know the request parameter name, we cannot make use of request parameter or get request parameter values to access the request parameter values or to get the request parameter values. So if you don't know the request parameter name, even in that case also we can get the request parameter and their values using another method. There is another method, get parameter map. Request dot get parameter map.
And really the values is used for the checkboxes.
Thus, we'll develop a log registration servlet. There we'll explain. Okay. That's the only possibility, right? For radio buttons, it is not possible. For checkboxes or multiple select boxes, in those cases, these are really parameter values. So, there is another method, request dot get parameter map, which will give a key value pair. The key will be the name of the request parameter, value will be a string array. Just because one request parameter may have multiple values. So to accommodate that, we give a string array here. Okay? One request parameter may have multiple values. To accommodate that, so the value will have a string array for that map. So the key will be only one. Key will be unique, but values can be multiple. So the key of the map is the name of the request parameter. The value, the string array is the values of the request parameter. Now, just already we have seen in collections how we can iterate a map. Just let me try to iterate the map. Okay, just this is how we can iterate a map. A map will have a entry set. Map will have a method with the name entry set. Okay, which will return an object of type map.entry. Map has a method entry set which will return an object of type map.entry. This map.entry will have a key value pair. If you refer to the collections, you will come to know how to iterate a map. Okay, this is how we can iterate a map. Just map.entry set method will be there, which will return. Okay, map.entry set method will return a set of map.entry objects, and each and every map.entry object will represent a key value pair. Let's consider like there are 10 key value pairs in the collection. There are 10 key value pairs in the map. So when we try to create entry set, 10 map.entry objects will be fetched. So just this highlighted portion will contain the key value pairs. Okay, there will be some keys and there will be corresponding values. Let's consider like now I am sending two request parameters. One is username and another is password. Then what could be the size of this set retrieved? There are two request parameters. One is username and another is password. What could be the size of this entry set? Password 1. So 2. Okay, it will be given. Size of the entry set will be equal to the size of the map. size of the map will be 2, just because there are two request parameters. One is username and there is password. For username there can be multiple values. That's not in our scope now. Okay. So map.entry object. Entry object will have, again let me go for a for loop. Now we don't know the request parameter name, we don't know the username also. Okay, just name is in the entry object there will be a get key method which will return the key of the map. Okay, let's consider like here's the chalk. Let's consider like there is a map with username as a key and password is a key. And for username there are two values. One is Ravi, second is Rajesh. This is a array. And for password 1, 2, 3 is the value. Okay? So this is a map that we have. And in each and every, the key set what it will do means, the key set will return a set of entry objects. So, for me this is one entry and this is another entry. So, the key set method will return a set of entry objects. Now, how many entry objects are there here? 2 entry objects, 2 key value pairs. So, 2 entry objects. So, and in the entry object what I am doing is entry dot, in the first iteration the first entry object will come. In the for loop, in the first iteration first entry object will come. So entry dot get key. What is the key in the entry? In the first entry? Username. So username. And what are the values in the first entry means? Just how we can get the values of the entry means get values method. Just to display it in a better way, just I am giving comma. So value 1 comma value 2 like that. Okay. So I am giving request parameter values are. There can be multiple. So each and every request parameter is being separated by a each and every value is separated by a comma. So now what I get, one entry will be there, that key will be username, and there might be multiple values for the same key. Okay, Ravi and Rajesh. So username and values will be Ravi comma Rajesh. The same way the array contains only one element. Here also there will be array of values, but the array size is only one. So password is. Understood how it will be? How request.get parameter map will work? Just let me try to compile this application. Cannot find symbol map, sorry. Map is a interface in java.util package, so we need to import them. Sorry, it's not get values. It's get value. It was mistake from my side. Okay, it was compiled, successful. And let me try to restart the server. The server is started. And let me try to go to the page once again and enter some values. So the request parameter name is username and the values are Ravi and Rajesh. Okay, and the request parameter name is password and the values are 1, 2, 3. Understood how it will be? This is how we can access the request parameters. Okay, if you don't know the parameter names. If you know the parameter names, definitely we directly access using request.get parameter name or get parameter. Sorry, request.get parameter or request.get parameter values. If we don't know the request parameter name, then we go for request.get parameter map. Understood? That's how it will be. Now we have another HTML page here, which is signup.html, which has many elements. Okay, first name, username, last name, password, and all. Okay. So in general, how we do means, let's consider like we have a form. Okay, a form has a username and password. Okay, for each and every form, what we'll do means we create a object, corresponding object in the Java side. Let's consider like, now let me remove this double username field. It's not a realistic thing. Okay, having two username fields that the user can enter, it's not a realistic approach. Only one will be there. So let me remove the one. So here, this is a login form which has two parameters. One is username and there is password. Okay. For each and every form there will be a class, and for each and every field in the form will have an attribute. That's the general approach that we take. For each and every form there will be a class. For login form, yes, there will be a class with the name login form. Let me develop a class. Just let me save this. Login form.java. Let me set let me get the username. In the same way, let me write setters and getters event for password. So I have two attributes, username and password, and the class name is login form. I have getters and setters for username and password. So in the servlet, what we'll do is we'll develop this login form. Okay, we'll develop this login form like this. Let me go for do post now. Shall I remove this? Shall I remove this, or do you want to note it down? You can copy it from videos, okay? Anyhow, we'll be having videos, right? Okay, so let me paste this somewhere else. So now what we'll do is we'll create a login form. Where to the login form we set the username. By using the request parameter. In the same way we set password also. Okay, and this login form object will be sent to somewhere else to check whether it exists or not, and it will return a boolean value. Okay, and if it exists, then we'll write some logic. Not exists, we'll write some other logic. Understood how we will do the processing? Okay, first we will create a object for each and every form, and that form object, in general we call it as a form bean. Okay, form bean. That form object will be sent to some other class to execute some business logic, and that business logic will return either true or false, that exists or not. If not exists, then we'll return some output to the user. If exists, we'll return some other output to the user. That's how we'll process. Okay. For each and every form in general, there will be a class, and for each and every field in the form, there will be an attribute. And once we have this login form object, we will send this login form object to some other class where the business logic will be executed, and there we execute the business logic and we will verify whether that username and that password combination exists or not. If not exists, then that business logic will return false. If exists, will return true. So based on the return value here, we will write this logic. In servlets, we won't write any business logic. There will be other class where we write business logic, but in Servlet we navigate to the other class. Let's consider like we have another class login servlet. Just look at the method verify credentials which take a login form. Okay, which will take a login form. Now let me save this login service. Okay, now what we'll do is here just I am temporarily hardcoding the logic so that otherwise, if it doesn't come here, then it will return false. If it doesn't come to if means it will return false. Huh? Sorry, it's a spelling mistake. Understood what I have done? Just I have hardcoded the values, but this value will retrieve it from the database. Okay? But temporarily I have hardcoded them. Like the Rajesh is username and 123 is the password, then it is a correct user. So what we will do is we will make this login service as an attribute to login servlet. So in the login servlet, we will make this as an attribute. And what we do is if login service dot okay, what is the method name that we have developed? Verify credentials. Of login form. Okay, it takes a login form object. Okay, then just I'm taking login success. Else login page. Understood what we have done? Just we have maintained a private attribute to login service class, and just we are verifying the credentials using login service dot verify credentials by passing the login form. In the login form, what we have done, in the login service, what we have done in the verify credentials, if Rajesh uses username and 123 is the password, then we are returning true. Otherwise, we will return false. So, in the login servlet, just in the servlet, we write the interaction with the UI. That's it. Interactions with the web page. All the business logic will be done in the separate class, which we call it as a service class or a business class. Okay? We don't write or we don't accumulate the UI interaction logic and the business logic in a single class. Okay? So what we do is we decouple. We decouple the UI interaction logic. That means UI means user interface. We'll decouple the what we call client interaction. Client here is a browser. From the browser we send request parameters. So we decouple the client interaction logic from the business logic. Business logic we are writing it in a separate class login service. Okay? The UI interaction logic we are writing it in a servlet. Either in do-get or do-post methods. So the bottom line is we should not accumulate. Okay? We should not accumulate the business logic as well as the UI interaction logic or the client interaction logic at one place. We should split them. We should decouple them into separate classes. Business logic, all the business logic related to login should be there in a separate class login service. All the UI interaction logic or all the client interaction logic should be there in login service. Like that, we split the logic based on the work we do. If it is a business logic, we write in the service. If it is a UI interaction logic or a client interaction logic, we write it in the servlet itself. If it is a database interaction logic, we will write in separate class which will interact with the database. Like that, we separate the code based on the purpose of the code. That we'll discuss that in depth later on. But keep in mind that we will not accumulate the business logic with the UI interaction logic. Okay? Understood? This is what we are using, right? We are creating a login form object. We are setting username and password, and we are sending that to verify credentials. That object itself is used, right? So let me try to compile the application. Let me try to stop the server. Compile the application. Let me go for star.java so that all the .java files will be compiled. Okay. Sorry, one closing brace is missing here. Login form, where it is? It's in the same package, right? Why it is asking for? What happened? Login form doesn't exist. Why? Sorry, I have saved this in Hello app. Let me save this in XRC folder. So let me try to compile this application. User n is small here. So it was compiled successfully. Okay, there were some minor compilation errors. Okay, just some spelling mistakes and all. We have fixed them. So application is compiled. Let me start the server and let me execute the same application again. Let me enter Ravi 123. Okay. Sorry, get is not supported by this URL. Login.html method is get. Let me go post. Just because we have overridden do post method. Let me give the same values. Ravi n 123. What is this here? Let me try to refresh the page properly. Sometimes Mozilla will be a real cause. See, now what is telling? Login is failed just because we have entered wrong values. Let me give Rajesh 123. Sorry. Login is success. Okay, understood? How the business logic will be executed? The business logic in general we won't write that in the servlets. In the servlets only UI interaction logic. From servlet to UI or from UI to servlet. That's it. From browser to servlet or servlet to browser. That's it. Okay. Remaining logic will be written in the service tab. Okay. Business logic will be written in the service tab. Database interaction logic will be written in some separate tab. That we'll discuss later on how it will be. But we won't write business logic in the servlets. That's for sure. Now we had a login form and we have a sign up form, okay, which is something like a registration form. Now let me develop another servlet with the name registration servlet, which will access the fields from all these elements. Okay, so now let me try to develop another servlet. Let me give the same package structure. throws, two exceptions, IO exception, servlet exception. Okay. Now let me copy the inputs also. Otherwise, extends to HTTP server. JavaX dot servlet dot request response. Okay, these are the classes that we need. Just let me save this to appropriate folder. Okay, we have this registration servlet which handles this signup.html content. Okay, now let me write request, not request. So let me try to do this. Let me try to access the fields present in signup.html. Okay, now first is first name. Okay, let me write the print writer. First name will be only one. So we are using request dot get parameter. Like this. What is the next field? Last name of type text. It is also only one. What is the request parameter name? Sorry, first name. That's why it's better to copy this rather than typing. So let me copy here and paste here. First name, last name. Okay. Then what's the next field? Username. This is next field, password 1. And again yes, I am trying to re-enter the password, which is password 2. Okay, password 2. And next is phone. phone number is 1, and the next is gender, address, whose request parameter name is address. Next field is gender, which is of type radio. Now, is it possible to select multiple genders? Is it possible to select multiple genders? Yes or no? No. Now, do we need to use request get parameter or get parameter values for that? For gender, is it better to use request.get parameter or request.get parameter values? Parameter or parameter values? Parameter. Just because even there are multiple options here for gender, at maximum we can select only one. So, the better one to go for gender is request.get parameter only. So, just because at maximum we can select only one option. For radio buttons we go for request.get parameter only. Okay? But for the next one, technologies, the request parameter name is check. Here it is a checkbox. Since it is a checkbox, we can select multiple values. For that case, what we do is we will go for request.get parameter values of request.get parameter values of the technology. Just because technology, here it is a checkbox. For a checkbox we can give multiple values. Okay? For a checkbox we can give multiple values. So, just values for technology, just because technology is a checkbox. For checkbox we can select multiple options. Okay? Now, what's the next option? State. Now in this state, can we select multiple states or only one state? One state. Just because it is not a multi-select box, it's a simple drop down. If it is a multi-select box, then we can be able to select multiple values. But here it is not a multi-select box. State is not a multi-select box. We can select maximum only one value. So directly we can go for request.get parameter. So okay. So the next one is location. Now location, is it a simple drop down or is it a multi-select box? Is it a simple drop down or multi-select box? It's a multi-select box. Okay? Just because for select multiple equal to true means we can select multiple options. Okay? We can select Hyderabad, Bangalore, Pune and Mumbai and Chennai. We can select all the options. So for a select box, if multiple equal to true means it is a multi-select box. Okay? For multi-select box, we can select multiple options. Okay? So in that case, do we need to use parameter or request.get parameter or get parameter values? Get parameter values. Just because for the same request parameter, for the same location, we can select multiple values. We can select Hyderabad, Bangalore, Pune, Mumbai, Mumbai, Chennai, Noida. Like that, we can select any combination of options. That means we can select multiple options. Just because in the select tag we have multiple equal to true. But in this case, in the state select dropdown we have only we don't have multiple equal to true. By default, multiple equal to false. That means by default only one option can be selected. But if multiple equal to true means multiple options can be selected in the dropdown. So for location we use request dot get parameter values. This preferred locations are there might be multiple preferred locations, so we have given them. Okay? And what is the next one? Profile. That's it. Okay? So the input parameter name is resume. Now we can upload only one file. Okay, so just let me give. Just it will not send the actual file, it will just send the location on the operating system. Understood what we had done? So, just I have developed the login servlet, registration servlet. Now once I have developed the servlet, what are the things that I need to do after developing a servlet? The first thing is registering that servlet with the web.xml. Now let me register that servlet with web.xml. Where is web.xml? Let me go there. Now the next thing is register the servlet with web.xml. In the servlet tag, we have a servlet name, let me name it as registration servlet. which is there in the same package. Okay, so we should give a URL pattern. Okay, so we have login servlet, we have the corresponding URL pattern. Even for registration servlet also, we need to map it with the URL pattern. So we will do a servlet mapping. Which has the same servlet name. Let me copy it here. This I have given start dot register. Something dot register will go to the registration server. Now, sure, what we have done? We have configured the developer servlet in the .xml. Now, this action is so something dot register. Let me give test dot register. Okay, something dot register will go to the registration servlet, and we have used method post, and even here also in the registration servlet also, okay, we have overridden do post method. Okay, that's how we need to go for. So just test dot register will go for registration servlet. Now let me try to stop the server. This is web.xml. JSON master select type in class web.xml. Sorry, class. Just in any place, if you want to check the web.xml content is correct or not, just go for Control B. Okay, if all these tags are displayed, means yes, it is correct. Control B. B means browser, in a browser mode. So let's consider like there is some problem. There is a problem in web.xml now. Starting tag is select class, but ending tag is select name. This will go for Control B. Okay, it will give the place where the problem is. Okay. Control B means open the file in the browser mode. Now, I have stopped the server. Let me try to recompile the application. Print writer is not found. We need to import that in the registration servlet. We will forward that. Now if you go here, okay, just it will go to the registration page. Okay, just just select some and select multiple options. Okay, and just okay, just first name, last name and values. The technologies that I have selected are C and C++. State is AP and preferred location is Hyderabad, Bangalore and Pune. So the labels that we have here in the select box, see the select box or check box, whatever it might be, the labels are not going to the server. Only the corresponding values are going to the server. Only values will go to the server, not the labels. Understood the whole flow, how a servlet can be used to get the values and to display the values in the browser. Understood? So even in case of registration also, there will create a separate class registration form. Okay, and from UI, from the browser, we populate these values, and in the servlet we create a login form object and we'll send it to the service method. What the service method will do means, it will validate whether the information is correct or not, and then it will populate in the database. It will be like that, but for time purpose we have developed it like this.
So what will we do that information?
We'll save it in the database, right? See, we'll call another class. At that third class, what it will do means, it will save the information in the database. In the service, we will write some business logic like this. What we call username, password entered is matching with the password again, or is it matching with the maximum length of the database? Like that, some business conditions are developed. Once let's consider like a username already exists with that name. So we'll validate that yes, this username already exists, so we cannot complete this registration. So we'll send that message to the servlet, just saying that yes, this is the problem. We cannot complete the registration because username already exists. So we'll send the same message to the HTML or JS page, whatever it might be. That kind of things will happen. Then, yes, we'll end up the class now. Okay. Tomorrow's class we'll see how servlet config and how servlet context will be useful. Okay. And then after once servlet config and servlet context are over, then we go for request dispatching. Okay. Tomorrow, most probably, in the first hour, we will see what is servlet config and what is servlet context and why they are used, all those things. And then after, we will go for request dispatching.
Which command is used to serve it, sir?
Just Control C.